Hello everybody, welcome back once again to the channel. We are 2 for 2 in the Decktechs. Uh, it has just been a couple of weeks that I've decided I wanted to go on ahead and move some decks, change some decks, make a deck, apparently. And so far I have 2 in the works. I have a beginner deck that I want to call a beginner deck that I want to play, I want to build. And another more hardcore deck that I'm looking to try and, zombify, of course. But unfortunately, Orvar had just petered out in its good fortune with me, and it was a great run. I did use it. It started out as a EDH deck, and it's horrible as it sounds. It started out that way. It was a horrible one at that, and didn't barely win any games. Um, and then it moved into spirits because I wanted to do something more original. And now I have decided I wanted to go on ahead and just build spirits, true and honest as best as I can. And this is what I have decided to come up with. The deck list will be down below in the description. If you have any comments on upgrades or anything like that, let me know. I definitely will look into it because, I'm always looking at new pieces for decks and everything like that, just like any other Magic player with, 20, 30 decks. But for all of those that don't know, this is a card that came out in the Crimson Vow Commander deck. His name is Donal, Herald of Wings. For 2 generic and 2 blue, this is a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard that says, whenever you cast a non-legendary creature spell with flying, you may copy it, except the copy is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. And you can only do this once each turn. The copy becomes a token. Now, when it says you may copy it, when you cast a creature spell with flying, you may copy it. You do inquire, the pips of which the creature does have, on the card. So if it's a 1 in a blue, this token is a 1 in a blue also in the mana cost. So that's something to go on ahead and remember while we're ahead. So let's go on ahead and get into the mana acceleration before we get into the main theme of the deck, the meat and potatoes. Do spirits eat? Questions for later. Starting out with a lotus petal, a soul ring, a sky diamond, because I did want this deck to kind of be a little lower power, a mind stone, and you can't have a blue deck without a sapphire medallion. Neat little story. I got this in a bundle, a Crimson Vow bundle for Christmas 2 years ago, I believe. Still pretty, it's still a fond memory for me. Felwar Stone, Thought Vessel, because we're going to be drawing a whole bunch of cards since we're in blue. Liquid Metal Torque, Arcane Signet, Prismatic Lens, Commander Sphere, because you never know when you're going to need to draw a card. Midnight Clock, Thran Dynamo, Gilded Lotus, and just like any other deck that has a large amount of basic islands, a High Tide for those big turns where you want to go on ahead and just do what you got to do. And now we get into the main theme of the deck, the spirits. Starting out with Ethereal Investigator is going to, and when it copied, it doubles the amount of clues you get to make, and then it doubles the amount of spirits you get to make. So that's an amazing feat all by itself. And like I said, we only get to choose one, so we got to be very careful. The Spectral Arcanist, whenever it enters the battlefield, you may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to the number of spirits you control from a graveyard without paying its mana cost. So when 2 of these enter, one enters, the token copy enters first because it was created by Donal. The second one enters, and you can choose something from anywhere else. I mean, you can choose from a graveyard, so whatever you want to choose. Path to Exile, Treasure Cruise, if you got enough spirits, it could be pretty good. And then you don't ever have to worry about it again because it's exiled. Lantern Bearer, because we want to eventually help our commander fly if, it does go to the graveyard. Mistwalker is a changeling, but it does still count as a spirit with flying. It also counts as everything else with flying. Wanderlight Spirit. This is a 2/3 with flying and can only block creatures with flying, so birds. Shipwreck Sifters. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card and then discard a card, and whenever you discard a spirit or a card with disturb, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It does not have flying, but it can get pretty big if we're, recycling our graveyard and moving stuff around. There are a few cards in here that are like they're some slots if needed. Mausoleum Wanderer is not one of those slots because whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 to end a turn. Then it has the ability you can sacrifice it and counter a target instant or sorcery unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. And if we do happen to try and do this just the right way, we might just have that as a huge Mausoleum Wanderer because we might have 2 lords of, any varying type. Dream Shackle is going to help us tap down creatures. That actually comes in handy later on. Departed Deckhand is going to help us, slink in a couple damage. Nibblets of Frost is once again going to help us tap down creatures to fuel our insatiable need to make all those land creatures not be able to block each other. Spectral Sailor can pull in double work with the card draw ability and having flash. So you can play this on someone else's turn and have 2. Nebelgast Herald. This is one of those ones that I've always loved, but I've never gotten the chance to play. And being in a spirit-based deck is the thing that it wants to be. It wants to see. And the tokens they make, no matter what it always is a spirit. So we're going to have a lot of tap shenanigans going on in this deck if you haven't realized it. Malevolent Hermit is a counterspell sometimes, and it's also a way so your instant or sorceries can't be countered on the back. Rattle Chains is going to help us keep our spirits alive and, play more spirits. I did realize that I did need the Breath of the Sleepless, and I do have it, but I'll have to figure out what changes I need to make for that. That way we can just play spirits all the time. Shacklegeist is going to help tap down more creatures. And Supreme Phantom is another lord, one of the few other lords that we're going to be able to get to play with that, have flying. And now we get into the support for the deck. Some that are not spirits, but, they help a little bit. Let's go on ahead and talk about the non-spirits that actually fly. Cloudkin Seer is going to help us draw 2 cards. Warden of Evos Isle is going to help make our spirits cheaper, and if we can, we're able to get a copy of him, we can just make all of our spirits cost a blue, pretty much. And Mole Drifter, because we want to be able to draw multiple cards, and it does have flying, so we're going to get a spirit copy of it. But we might not just get 1. We might be able to get 2, 3, maybe 4 different copies of a creature at any given time. Because we're going to play Sakashima of 1,000 Faces copying Donal. Oh, I missed one. Spark Double copying Donal and, able to copy that. Timon is one of those that kind of helps with the tap. Favorable Winds. And last but not least, we have a Reflections of Littjara. So that is going to give us what? Donal, Sakashima, Spark Double, Reflections. 4 copies of a creature. Which is pretty wild if you want to ask me. And now we get into the card advantage. And of course, blue is stacked with card advantage. So it should be no Um, shouldn't be any surprise that we were running a Ristic study, a Mystic Remora, which I picked both of those up not too long ago. If you're in the States, we call it Labor Day. If you're outside the States, we call it Labor Day. It's just a day that, celebrate for all the hard work the country's done, we've done, and so on and so on. And this is where all those tap shenanigans come in. The Verity Circle. For 2 and a blue, this is an enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. That also includes tapping for mana. That also includes for tapping to shuffle the library. If it's not attacking and it's tapping, you can draw a card. Kinder Discovery is going to help us for all those little spirit dudes that come in. Because, of course, we're going to name Spirit. Distant Melody, it's going to draw us a heck of a ton of cards. Flow of Knowledge is going to help us keep our hand full, even though we do have to discard 2. Winged Words is always going to be 2 mana because damn near all of our creatures are flying. Frantic Search is going to help us untap some of those bigger, harder to hit, untap lands that might produce more than 1 or 2 mana. Clear the Mind is going to help shuffle our graveyard into our library just in case, we get milled or something. Idol of Oblivion can make a token, but we're just doing it for the ability to draw a card. And finally, Brain Surge. Because, why not look at a bunch of cards and then find a way to shuffle your library? Because that's always fun. And now we're moving into the interaction. And I am kind of low on the interaction because most of our creatures fly. So why do we need to pack interaction for creatures on the ground? It is beneath us, quite literally. Stasis Field is going to help make that big bag creature 0/2 with Defender. Resculpt is going to exile that creature. Counterspell is going to make sure it doesn't even become a creature. Pongify makes it a different creature. Wash Away, it becomes nothing. Arcane Denial helps us draw a card too, and even though they get to draw 2. Mana Leak gonna help us make sure that they regret tapping out. Tails End counters a legendary spell, a triggered ability, or target activated ability. So that could be just about anything, really. Still a good card. No, I feel like it's underplayed. Rapid Hybridization is gonna once again turn one thing into a different thing. Hocus Pocus. Geist Light Snare is one of those flavor includes for me. But it does help because it does reduce the cost if you have a spirit. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control the spirit. It also costs 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment. So we could pay possibly at least 1 blue, up to 1 blue at the least for a counter spell. And finally, with the good old negate. Now I decided to go on ahead and put some MDFCs in the deck, some to help either smooth out the mana base or add lands when we need it. I did go with the Hydroelectric Specimen that, is pretty much a what is the red one? Flawless? It's not Flawless Maneuver. It's the red free spell because it changes the target. I don't know. And Sink It to Stupor to help, bounce the thing back to our opponent's hands. And now we're going to talk a little bit, just quickly, on our non-basic lands. So we want to go on ahead and be able to untap Nykthos for a bunch, right? Seems good. Temple the False God to help, keep the mana up. War Room for a little bit of draw. Demolition Field to get rid of that pesky Maze of Ith. Reliquary Tower because, like I said, we're going to be drawing some cards. Rogue's Passage is a flex spot. I hate to say it, but it is a flex spot for me right now. I don't know if I want to play something else instead of it. Myriad Landscape is not ramp. It is just getting you back the land that you lost, pretty much. But it does help fix our colors a little bit. And finally, we do have a Crystal Vein, because I can't play a deck without playing a monocolored deck without having a Crystal Vein. And of course, we have all matching islands, because that's just how I roll, especially if it's a deck that I like. But that is going to be it for today, everybody. If you, like I said, if you have any comments on, upgrades for the deck, it's always appreciated. And if you like the deck, let me know down in the comments below. If I play tested this one for a while, and I feel like it is right where I want it. The fact that it only triggers once each turn is, it does have a limit on it. But like I said, if you're playing with Flash, it makes it better. And like I said, the breath of the whatever of the breathless is going to be an auto include. So that's something I'm looking forward to being able to use, because why not be able to have like 17 million copies of tokens and spirits all floating around? It's not like I needed to keep up with a large board state as it is. Because, I play zombies. We're always building up board states out of nowhere. But that is going to be it for today, everybody. I really appreciate everybody that likes, comment, and subscribe. And if you've lasted this long into the video, why not subscribe? It helps the channel out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. But I will see you guys next time for the next deck tech sometime in the future in the graveyard.